Hey, it's your girl Rashida Green, and you are listening to the Crossroads podcast. Welcome back. So, I took a trip to the Licking Creek Bend Farm in Needmore, Pennsylvania. This farm delivers fruits and veggies to the Tacoma Park and Silver Spring Food Co-operative located in Maryland and farmers markets in DC. Every year, the farm hosts a farm day where they invite co-op members and other farm patrons to visit the grounds, take a tour, and share a meal. And this is the first episode in a series I'm starting called Notes from the Field. So I recorded some audio from a group discussion with the farm owner, Mike Tabor, and his wife, Esther. And just so you know, the birds would not be denied, okay? They are loud, but we were standing in the middle of an apple orchard, so there you go. But Mike talked about the sustainable practices the farm uses and products they use to deter insects instead of using pesticides. He also makes mention to a lawsuit with Bayer-Monsato due to the use of Roundup, which has been linked to causing cancer. And as always, I'll provide a link in the description box. This farm grows everything imaginable, all the berries, apples, peaches, tomatoes, onions, you name it. Just again, though, this was recorded on a farm, so there's going to be some background noise. But, I hope you enjoy.
When we planted these trees, we didn't really know how big an undertaking it might be. You plant trees, you get apples, right? Well, not exactly, if anyone's dabbled with apples. But in our case, we planted the trees, and because I didn't cover this, but because everything, we don't use the word organic. We don't like to use the word organic, even though the standards on this farm surpass the organic standards from what we understand. And we're part of a farmer certification program. But organic has a connotation to it. Does anyone know who has experienced this directly know what the connotation is? Yeah, elitist. So when we sold, we still sell at Brookland, but when it was more of near Catholic University, more of a low-income area, a customer who was there to buy things said, "Tell me what's organic, so I won't buy it." I said, "What are you talking about?" She says, "Well, if this means organic, I can't afford it." Mm. And so I stopped using. After I thought about it, I joked about it. I said, "Well, you could always go to a hardware store and buy poison and put it on this stuff." I was very flippant about it. But it was a serious question because it is a class issue, and it is about elitism, and it is something you find generally in upscale stores. Although I have to tell you today, when you shop at Costco, and a high percentage of certified organic food, or even Martin's, chain store Martin's, I'm always amazed. So we knew from the beginning we wanted to be organic, or in our case we use the word sustainable or pesticide free. And we figured, how are we going to do all these? We didn't start off with these many trees. They all started with trees that were, kind of whips. That's what they call them, really small trees. There weren't beginner classes in these things. In fact, when I went to Penn State several times early on, they threw me out. Literally said, "Oh, you don't want to talk to the professor here, Dr. Ferretti. Once you say you're organic, he won't talk to you." So the graduate students, the doctoral students, they don't even bother to stay. Now, Pete Ferretti became a big supporter of things sustainable years later because he saw the direction that things were going in. But that was the case. It was if it wasn't for Rodale and Rodale Farms and a grassroots movement of people moving out to rural areas who wanted to raise things without pesticides, herbicides, and not eat, those poisons. And I should say also, I'm not negative about my neighbors who use pesticides. I have to chime in here. We have had people, immediate neighbors, who have cancer, and they said, "Well, you have tomatoes after your could I go and pick the tomatoes? Because I don't want to eat tomatoes that are sprayed. And I said, yeah, but it's not a panacea. Just because it's organic, it's not going to cure your cancer. And there's nothing, it just means maintaining a healthier lifestyle. There's no promise of health benefits for you, especially at stage 3 cancer, stage 4. Because they think, or a lot of people thought there was something magic about it, and there isn't. It's just that there is I would say almost collusion started by the chemical companies, Monsanto, Syngenta, and the other companies. So there is this collusion on the part of these companies to say, no, you could eat all you want of these things, you could spray all you want. Meanwhile, there are 3 multi-million-dollar lawsuits, one against Monsanto / Bayer, and from people who guarantee are getting their cancer from using Roundup and Roundup-related products. No question about it. And yet there's still this myth that, you could drink it. I could tell you some funny things about this stuff where literally people said, you could drink this. I remember the first time I went to a meeting in Warfordsburg at the old Southern States. Anyway, one of these dealerships, and they were using they were using not Roundup. They were using atrazine and Roundup, and they said this is so. I said, how safe is it? And they said, it's so safe. If you want me to, I'll drink it right now, concentrated. And when I mentioned it to people, they said, well, that's the way salesmen were taught to sell the product. That it is absolutely. Now, had he done that, turns out his wife was dying of cancer. Had he done that, it would have been ugly, I think. But, that was the sales pitch. That's, I hope I'm not getting anyone upset. That's what the Farm Bureau, encourages you to think. That's what, it is something that is really something that is protected pretty deeply, pretty strongly. We got a wide variety of the most resistant apples, the most resistant rootstock we could get. Mm-hmm. So stamen, and ones we liked. Like none of us like red delicious apples anymore, even though that was sold to us as the choice. So we stamen wine saps, Yorks, Priscillas, what else? Sheep nose apples.
We have a couple of Granny Smith.
Granny Smith.
That's basically.
We took the apples that were the most popular apples and that can grow here the best. Same thing with potatoes. When we choose a potato, we get Kennebecs. They're the ones that grow here. We know. We could try some of the others, but if you're aimed towards commercial production, it's Kennebec. So with these trees, we got the hardiest rootstock, and I'm assuming people know that all of these trees have a rootstock that is there to resist as much disease as you could. So we picked the hardiest you could pick, and also got several varieties of trees that were bred to be resistant. So cedar apple, it's a fungus. During 6 months of the year, it's in juniper-related trees, and then another 6 months on apple trees. And once you've got it, it's very hard. And we cut down hundreds and hundreds of junipers on the farm, near the farm, whoever would let us do it, to try and prevent that cycle. But it's almost impossible. These things got parachutes. I'm almost talking literally here. They get here. So, and it's the bane of sustainable farmers. So we use this host of organic ingredients, and we've never been able to touch them. Never. And then this year I was contacted by a West Coast company, and they said, you use our product, which is cold pressed neem. So neem is neem is in a lot of toothpaste. We use neem, but not this cold pressed variety. And they said, you use it and see what happens. See if its rust is supposed to be really, it's something you shouldn't get if you start off at the green tip stage. So we've been using it, and I like to think it's not much less. We have it, but much less. Anyway, we spray on everything something called Surround, which is clay. They've managed to take this clay and mixed with water and sprayed on trees, and we go around and actually spray them on the apples. Will make insects, this is the belief, think they're landing on clay, and that doesn't taste good, doesn't feel good, and so we use a lot of that, and we have a 100-gallon sprayer and spray 3 or 4 or 5 times and then go around. When they're in their early stages, where you've got something called the plum curculio, that's the first really insect of note that you want to stop. So we spray it. We just cover the apples themselves, and they for a sustainable farm, for a farm that did not use all this stuff and depended pretty much on one product mixed with Surround. This is actually very good. I could take you to some trees where down that way, where they become completely defoliated. They're all yellow, but all the green leaves have come back. So that variety was very susceptible. Now, having said that, it's not a sales job since this is not sold on the East Coast. I'm kind of experimenting with it. And as I say, it's cold pressed neem. When the neem tree grows heavily in India, and it's pretty expensive. This is pure neem. I could pass this around. We get this. I don't know what this cost. I'm gonna guess $200-300 for one of these. But this is it's cold pressed neem, and it seems to be doing a lot better job and does not burn. When I say burn, you spray it. It's got oil on it. The sun comes out, and the leaves all get crinkly and burned.
Mike, how many gallons of neem do you need to spray all your trees?
Well, this I have a 100-gallon sprayer. I put just this in a 100-gallon sprayer, and it seems to be handling it.
So you just do one application a year?
No. That's okay. Maybe I'd say all told maybe 6 applications, but none of that stuff. I basically come down to using the sticky coat on the red traps, and a more intensive form of neem that I don't really know how to use. I'll find out later, and that's it.
Do you use a horticultural spray early before the bud stage?
No. I always did. So this is, I don't know if you want to pass it around, but this is water soluble. So this is what when we want to use it on the individual apples, we take solo sprayers, backpack sprayers, 4 or 5 gallons, and spray it on each apple, or sometimes just the bottom of the tree. Diatomaceous earth would be cutting an insect,
Right.
and it would kind of bleed to death.
Right.
This is a repellent. This is, if you are, in this case, if you feel that insects have souls, you're telling the insects to go somewhere else.
Like a witness relocation program.
Yes, yeah. I don't think there's a case where they're hurting insects. They're making insects think to whatever extent they can think. This doesn't smell good, taste good, feel good. I'm going to go somewhere else.
So Mike continues to discuss the efforts to keep the farm sustainable in its food production without the use of chemicals. One of the farm's sustainable practices is carbon sequestration, or carbon capture, which is the long-term storage of carbon dioxide to help combat global warming. excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is the leading cause of climate change. After discussing the supplements the farmers give to the plants and a question from me about permaculture, Mike talks about the importance of providing good, sustainably produced food to everyone, regardless of class and wealth status.
We want to be able to sequester carbon. So same thing, if you went to your average orchard, this ground would be bare. This ground is, it's covered with inches of all kinds of ashes and chips, wood chips and weeds, and we want that. We want things to be, carbon to be absorbed. We don't want we don't want open ground, but that's the common practice still among most growers, sadly.
Do you supplement the nutrition?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spray. So fish emulsion's a biggie, and kelp is another, and we don't. Well, anyway, we do. The answer is we do supplement, and we stop. Like up until last year, we would take herbs and make them into a beer and spray them on the trees to give the trees what we're doing. You remember last year or the year before, we were giving them a form of a natural ingredient that they really liked. It wasn't, anyway, whatever it was, you remembered what it was last year or the year before. So nettles, for instance, stinging nettles, we actually have taken that, made it into a beer, and sprayed it on the trees. And other ingredients.
Comfrey.
Comfrey is another one. We have a lot of comfrey here. So
do you document, like if you put the comfrey, do you say, oh, the trees produced X number this year and versus last year when you didn't?
The science only goes so far with us. It's hard enough taking notes and keeping the notes and knowing where the notebook is for me. We could hire someone to do that, but we don't, and it's up to us to record these things. Would any of this stand up to modern day science? Not at all. Except if someone was here, we invited them. Extension. Anybody here an extension agent? No. So we invited all the Penn State people and extension agents, and of course, we love to get them to. When they do teach some of the sustainable approaches, but. It's a day off, so you're not going to find any of those people on a visit like the conference.
How much do you rely on permaculture for your farming?
It's not our approach, even though we use it. It's not, to us it's another name. And if we got a student here or someone,
we have an asparagus garden that is a permanent garden, which, so that's one, and we are and we have a mint garden, and we have some herb garden that are permanent, where we don't till them, but we don't have
a setup that's like designed for.
Not yet, but we're trying to go that direction as much as possible.
Okay.
There are approaches to farming where most of the things are grown in wooded areas, and these are things. This is a sustainable farm that uses a lot of different techniques, and I guess the permaculture thing, although it's come up, and Charmaine certainly knows a lot about it, I've attended classes, it's not our big approach. I would say our biggest approach, and most important approach, is A, not using chemicals, and B, looking at ourselves as a farm that tries to address the climate change issue mostly by reducing carbon and sequestering carbon. And I guess our third approach, I would say, is making sure the marketing is done not just to wealthy people and not just to people who have the money to pay, but we've purposely, even though those neighborhoods have changed, we've sought out neighborhoods that have a lot of diversity. And that, now this was a while ago, this was about 12 or 15 years ago, I advocated this at a large event, a Maryland farm event. I said you should not be going into farming because of money. It's just not what you should expect. It should be something you enjoy doing. You feel pretty good doing it. But I forget the exact expression I used. But I remember. I said, if you're just growing food for yuppies, I don't think there's anything socially redeemable about that. And I was booed off the stage. And maybe in some fairness, I mean, upper middle income people, black and white, deserve to have good food. I just think it shouldn't be isolated, and that shouldn't be your goal. And I think it's bad intention, questionable intention. But obviously the audience was such that because the previous speaker talked about how he made $100,000 on 2 acres. So I had to follow that up. And every 5th issue of Mother Earth News or Conference or, you're going to find that kind of, I mean, how many times you have issue 1 of, it's there, it's about money. Well, farming is just not about money. It shouldn't be. And if that's your intention, you should get into IT or research or something else. But if I made that kind of presentation today, I'd probably still get put off the stage.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in. This episode is the first of a few I have planned to round out the conversation about food and food production. And hopefully when other topics emerge, I'll get to record some other episodes as well. And I hope this episode inspires you to ask where your fruits and vegetables come from and if they're coming from a local farm. It is so important that we buy locally. So much energy is used to bring high demand produce to grocery stores around the country. While it might be edible and cheaper than the farmer's market, it's usually not in season, lacks full health benefits, and contributes to carbon dioxide emissions, soil erosion, and other environmental issues. And if money is the issue that you're having, many farmers markets accept food stamps. It is no shade. If you have food stamps, they will accept it. And instead of buying a bag of chips or eating McDonald's, things like that, you could use that money to buy from your local farmers market as well. Health is wealth, and that's inside your body and the health of the planet too. Thank you all for tuning in.